Okay, son.
What's going on, brother?
I'm good. How you feeling, bro?
Man, I can't complain, man. Another day in paradise, man. Another Sunday. Uh,
Another day in paradise, baby.
just came back from my son's game. Shout out to the Minnesota Vikings here of the National Football Flag League. He had three
Okay. How
interceptions.
they do?
He had three interceptions, man. My boy had three
See?
interceptions, man. Yeah, I'm gonna post the video up later on. He had a one-handed interception, man, falling back. So shout out to Big Easy Money,
Man.
man. Easy Money, he
So
impressing
he
me
the
out there. So
defensive
he's ready for
Odell.
that.
He grabbed that joint like Odell going back, shorty.
Yeah, man. John like psyched me up a little bit today, man.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So right after church on Sundays, he has his games on Sundays, and then when he get the contact, he'll be playing that in the fall. So he'll be ready for that in a couple of weeks. They got the agility and speed and agility clinic coming up, so that way they can help him with his footwork and his agilities and speed and stuff like that.
Yeah, I showing them old Deion Sanders highlights, man. Start doing
Hey,
the dirty bird when they
you
get
know,
that.
you know who I showed him to watch because he plays safety. He plays free safety.
Okay.
I showed him Ed Reed, man.
Yeah, that's right. Way better than Troy.
I showed him Ed Reed, man.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's on it. So he on it, man.
That's
What's
up,
going
man.
on with you, man? How's your Sunday going, man?
Good, so far so good. You know what I'm saying? Just ready to get these conversations, man, and see if we can help somebody, enlighten somebody, and go from there, man. But I'm excited, bro. Every time we do these, we link up, bro. Even if we just having regular phone conversations throughout the week, they always bless me, man. So I appreciate this, man.
Amen. All right, man. With that being said, man, we'd like to welcome everybody back again to Final Notice Podcast. This is a very live, interactive podcast. We are streaming live on YouTube and also on Facebook at Final Notice Podcast, man. Tell somebody that knows somebody that can benefit from these conversations. We are going to be continuing our part 2 of last week's conversation, men's roles in marriage. So we're going to go ahead and bring, if you missed the first part 1, it is on YouTube on our page. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and also the notification button. But if you did miss part 1, you can always go back and rewatch it, and then you can catch up to where we are with part 2 today. So without no further delay, we will bring the guests back on. We're going to have our producer here bring them on shortly. What's going on? We got Jay, we got Caleb, and we got Terrell. What's going on, brothers?
What's happening, fellas?
What's up?
Happy
Good.
Sunday.
Oh man, it is a good Sunday, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. Sure is a good Sunday, man. How you guys doing today?
Oh man, I'm feeling good, man. Got my
Terrell, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling better than I did this morning. But I'm happy to be here. I wasn't gonna miss this for nothing. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
No, that's what's
good,
up,
man.
bro.
Thank you so much for showing up, man. Man, we are having a part 2 of our first part conversation, men's role in marriage. And last week, we got some great feedback from last week's conversation, man. Not just from you guys, but also from other people that was watching, that did tune in or was able to catch on to it. So we're going to continue that conversation. As we started off, we had some great conversation about financing. We talked about how you guys met your significant others. Jay, you getting ready to tie the knot, so you on that mission to become, inducted into one of these brotherhood with the rings. You know what I'm saying? So we know you working on that. Caleb, we know you got a couple of years in, and Terrell, you got the most tenured years in with your beautiful wife. So we're going to continue the conversation. And I think I'm gonna pass it on to Aaron, so Aaron can also kind of get on the microphone and chime in as well.
Oh yeah, fellas. Yeah, we're gonna get right into it today, man. I had a lot of conversations and the things that I had feedback on. I think one of the critiques I received last week was we spent a lot of time on providing and protection and stuff like that. But we should elaborate on some of those things and dig deeper inside of it, if y'all don't mind. And like I said, I'm just ready to get inside. I'll get into it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm trying to put them Terrell numbers on the board.
Takes some work. And
Yes, indeed.
So with that, I think you had a question. I think you wanted to start off with the questions you got, right?
Oh yeah, we go ahead. So one of the questions we was asking, right? It was like, we was talking about the protection aspect of it, and I know Caleb touched on it a little bit. about being the high priest of the home, and that's another way of protection. But like the protection, like what does that look like outside of the physical aspect of protection?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in on this one. There needs to be psychological safety, in the home at all times, right? Like it's funny. My wife just shared something on Facebook. It just popped up, and it talks about like kids need to be complimented more than they need to be corrected. And really, what the idea around this is people need to feel safe to be able to share, to open, to communicate, to have conversations that might be difficult, that might be hard, and know that you're not going to respond in a way that's always a disciplinarian, right? As I grew up, my dad was really good at that. He perfected the disciplinarian, side of things. And oftentimes as men, that's how we look at it from protection of physical. But, my wife should be able to come talk to me about anything, good, bad, indifferent. My kids should be able to come talk to me about anything, even if they messed up, right? Even if they messed up, they need to be able to say, hey, Dad, I know I made a mistake. I understand there's going to be some consequences, but I need to talk to you about this, right? How did I get into this situation? And we need to be, the fathers in the home that provides that gentleness. And I know that that's not always associated with men, but there is a gentleness that should be there from a man that allows for that conversation and that what we would call psychological safety. So right off the top, that's what I would think, from that question.
Right. Caleb, Jay.
Yeah, I'll go into that. Just to add into what Terrell's saying, we also, with the psychological aspect, we also as husbands have to be able to guard and handle like our wives' imperfections. One of the things is if we're not able to love our spouses for their brokenness, it just shows us as far as ourselves that we don't really love ourselves as much in a sense, because if I want my spouse to love me for my brokenness, my shortcomings, if I can't do the same thing to her, then what I'm saying.
Oh,
Well,
you good?
We back. We good.
All right, no problem. But that's one of the things you got to create a space where you're able to love your spouse for flaws and all. I mean, it's about your spouse, but it truly takes a man to love those broken places and then allow him also to be able to a space to heal and a space to grow from, because we all have to evolve. We all are trying to grow and get better. So just allow them a space to get better in those areas.
Okay, I want to jump in because I want to make a comment real quick because what Terrell was saying, I totally agree with that aspect of it because I feel like if children can't mess up at home, where are they supposed to mess up? The world's going to condemn them and bash them and trash them, you know what I'm saying? And they need a safe place, you know what I'm saying? So, and the same thing I would say, like as Caleb was saying, is about the imperfection part. But what does that actually look like, Caleb, to you? Like when you say you loving their imperfections and things like that, like what does that actually look like?
Loving it like I would say when all the glam, just say like like you go out with your wife with everything like that, you got the dress, like dressing to the nine or whatever the case may be, like loving it flaws of like when all of the external things come off or whatever, you know what I'm saying? If it's one of those things where my wife just kind of her
I think he's breaking up
like that, something
real bad.
Oh,
yeah, Caleb, your internet, you breaking up bad. You got some stuff you saying that we want to hear, and it's like your internet is not allowing you to. Your connection is not allowing you to. Are you on your computer or are you on your phone?
I'm on my phone, but I'm using my Wi-Fi
in the house.
Yeah, in the house.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So I think if we got, I think if me and you on the same mindset that we normally are, you were saying like the imperfection, loving them for their flaws is pretty much like if she wear makeup and she come home, the makeup is off. Her dressing, her dressing up for you guys going out, and then her coming home and then just being comfortable in the house. You love what she looked like before she's presenting herself outside of the house, where if she wear makeup or anything like that, then, you know what I'm saying, the world see her for that, but you see her for the opposite of not having all that stuff on, and you saying being able to love her for that side, where it's her natural side, more so compared to when she's dressed down and going out and people seeing her for the external outside of the home. Am I right?
Yeah,
To some
you
degree?
absolutely. And then also too, just like loving her for her imperfections, her shortcomings, things that are not so great, you know, and allowing her
Okay.
to mature and grow through those, you know. Because if we all could be honest, we all have insecurities and things that we battle and trauma that we're trying to figure out. And it's one of those things, especially in a marriage, giving your spouse the space and the place to, you know, figure it out and get better.
So how you handle a woman's insecurities, or your wife's insecurities?
The best way to handle your wife's securities, to be honest with you, is allowing them to share that with you. And ultimately, what I've experienced is applying the word of God to whichever insecurity comes out. You know what I'm saying? If it's one of the things where you wasn't affirmed and everything, then I would share with my wife scriptures about, you know, you was creating this image, you know, we beautifully and wonderfully made. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that.
So let me ask you a question. I want to ask you a question because I'm not going to give you the political correct answer in this conversation, because this is a conversation. This is a question that a lot of us, we give you the answer that we think people want to hear, but in real hindsight, we have to really dive down into this question, because this is an important question. When you talk about the flaws of your significant other, especially from the time you guys dating to the times you guys get married to the times you guys have children, there's a lot of transformation that comes in, not just from the wife's side, also from your side. How do you deal with, or, you know, what are some of the practices that you maybe have practiced personally, or maybe you can give an advice on, where if your wife is not as attractive as she once was when you first met her to the time that she is now, what do you then do? Because that imperfection we're talking about is imperfection that could come over time, right? And we know when women have children, as much as women go through, sometimes the body get changed, the hormones, we know that change. We know sometimes they gain weight. How do you still love your wife or your significant other after that has happened?
Not just love them, but
Because
when that
you saying,
insecurity in them kicks in.
say it again.
I said not just love them afterwards, but how do you deal with and handle the insecurity that comes with that inside of them?
Right. Anyone want to take on to that?
I mean, yeah, I can tell you this one. Like we said, we all got insecurities. It's not like we're coming up to talk to our wives about our insecurities, because our insecurities have nothing to do with how we look. Men don't worry about how we look, so that's not something that we're insecure about. We're more insecure about maybe, can we be good leaders? How much money are we having? Our status? How much can we? Our value, basically. And our value is always particular on just how good of a leader are you, and are you leading correctly? And it's money as well, finances. So at the end of the day, when you're dealing with your wife's insecurities of how she looks because she's getting fat, or she's not as beautiful as she was when you met her at 20. You know what I'll do? I don't care about that. I don't care. Get out of here tomorrow with that. No, because I love you. I don't really care about how you're looking. If you're getting fat, listen, I married you. I'm with you. That's finalized. Somebody always out there is going to either look better than you or less than you. And we're just talking about the facial features, the titties, the ass. There's always going to be some nice pair of titties out there. There's always going to be a nice pair of asses out there. But at the end of the day, that woman has to understand how your mind works. At the end of the day, I can tell you, listen, if you ever left me, I promise you, you can find another nigga quick, like that. Quick. It's easy for women to have access to men, but it's harder for men to have access to women. We all understand that. So therefore, dealing with your insecurities, no, I'm with you. I chose you over how many women there are in this world? So no. If you're gaining weight or whatever the case may be, I'm still with you. My eyes are still with you. My heart is still with you. My love is still with you. So that's just how I go about it.
Okay. I mean, part of that part I'll disagree with is she ain't gonna never find another me. That's how I look at it. And to quote the great, and to quote a good philosopher, Mr. Dwayne Carter, to the left. If you want to leave, be my guest, you can step. Feeling irreplaceable while listening to Beyonce. Well, okay, I'll put you out on your B day. That's just me. Ain't nobody gonna be like me.
But
and if you leave me, you leaving the best. So that means you gotta settle for less. That's what he said. That's just how I feel about myself, because I feel like the things that make me who I am, how I am, to build me. Granted, it may not be for everybody, but at the same time, I know that there aren't a lot of people that think like me, compassionate as me, have those type of connections, because I know what I had to go through to get to this. It's something sound like something maybe Terrell can with his many years, and it seems like it's one of those things that you just learn over time, that you understand, like.
But hold on. No, what I was going to say is, just to clarify that, I get what you just said. But the reason why I said, but the reason why I said it's easier for women to find men, it's not all about, we understand our value. We understand that, hey, listen, if you don't want me, then I know it's easy for you to have access to another man. It's not always about, we understand that how we view ourselves. That's cool. I can understand that if she loves me, that listen, you won't find of me, true. But there's always someone else. It's easier for a woman to find someone. It's just finding someone. Don't mean they're right or wrong. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they're gonna find somebody, like you said. I agree with you. They're gonna find somebody, but it ain't gonna be what they really looking for and what they really want. So absolutely. I mean, I've experienced that a couple of times, so I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And Terrell, I don't know if you want to chime in on that one, because I know you have the most tenure in your marriage. And I know you guys have a couple of kids, right? I think what, 3 boys, right? So 3 boys, 3 different pregnancies. We all know as men, and and in relationships, we all know that all pregnancies are not the same. So it's been some ups and downs in different type of situations with that. But when it comes to the physical change, how did you deal with your not deal, but how did you support your wife in her transformation? And what did it look like for you? And especially when she's not the same as she looked when you first met her in college, to having 3 kids, 3 beautiful boys for you. How did you adapt to that, and what were some of the practices you used to help you in that situation to be able to, if she had any insecurities, you were able to support her in that role?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the very first thing, one of the first things that I said, which is I went into the marriage knowing that there was going to be change. And that's just something you got to wrap your head around on the front end. And if you don't know, now you know, right? Like things are going to change. And as people change, you're going to have to become comfortable with somebody new they want to be. And I know that's hard, because when we walk down that aisle, we have this perception of this individual. And we want that to be perfect because we're all in love and we feeling good. But 4 years and after some kids, they may want to change to be a different person, right? And if you really love them, now you need to embrace that change. You need to say, okay, well, who do I need to be? Like I said before, like I feel like we've had 4 marriages, right? Like 4 different marriages along the way, which is 4 different people. And it's hard. I'll be honest with you. It's very hard to go through those changes, because sometimes the person that they want to be in that moment is not someone you may like in that moment. But if you said you're down for them, if you said you love them, if you said you're committed to them, then you also have to evolve. So part of this conversation is, how do you be there to support? Well, one of the best ways for you to support that people don't talk about is, I had to change. I had to.
And what does that look like, though? You saying it, but what does it look like?
Here goes a good example.
Because I'm saying, 14, I know you didn't have a lot of easy, good nights. A lot of stuff, like I said, it sounds good, it sounds PC, but like, what was that personal feeling, that moment that you felt in yourself when you look and you looked up and say, oh shucks, that's not how it was like it was before?
Well, when we met, that's easy. I mean, that's an easy one. I can start right from the beginning. When we met, we're both in college. We're both aspiring professionals, right? Then we had, right after college, we had a baby. my wife shifted from wanting to be this go-getter, work 12 hours days professional to saying, I want to be at home with the kids. And I'm looking at that like, well, that's not the financial plan that I had in my mind, you know, of me being the main one, being the breadwinner coming in. And so we had to go through and figure that out. Then let's call it 4 years later, let's say we start transitioning, right? 4 or 5 years later, she transitioned and she's like, you know what? I want to go back into the workforce. But then I got comfortable with her being at home, right? I got comfortable with her being at home. And, you know, and taking care of the kids and having certain things met and having certain things already taken care of, like from someone that's predominantly at home. And so those shifts and changes, they're not easy to transition through because they do change the trajectory. I want to say they change the route to the destination. But one thing I will say that me and, you know, and my wife could have done better at, and something that we have insight now in, we should have had a much more clearer picture of what right looked like. I don't want to say right, the destination, if you will, right? Because that destination is so important based on the vehicle. I use this example all the time. I used to use it with Kojo on the team. If I'm here in Pennsylvania and I want to go to, let's just say, London, if I got a car, that car is going to run out of space. I need a different type of vehicle. I need a boat, right, to be able to get over there. Or I need an airplane. I need to change the vehicle. And so one of the things that we learned was these vehicles were changing, but we were like, well, what destination are we going to? And so that's from a very practical standpoint, a couple examples of how we had to change and make adjustments. There are certain things where she was cool with me working, you know, at one point 12 hours a day. But then it came a time where she was like, no, bro, I need you home a little bit more. I need you around a little bit more. And we have to evolve through that. And I had to change careers, change positions, get promoted, do different things of that nature. So it's not easy, but you must go into it with the mindset that I'm going to have to change. And so
okay. I got a question. I got a follow-up question. And I think this question right here is for everybody. And I want to hear everybody's perspective on this. We talk about change, right? We talk about transformation. There's two things that I know. You know, one person had personally asked me, and I'm not going to put their name on there because I respect them and what they have. So we talking about change. First question I have is that, how do you deal with your spouse, right? If she doesn't or can't hold a job, what do you do about that?
You said how, let me make sure I understand the question. How do you deal, I guess that's the right word, with a spouse that can't hold a job?
Yeah, that consistently cannot hold a job.
Is holding a job that important to you know, like this is the natural question I'm going to have, is holding a job that important to the relationship?
All right, so let's walk it down. That's why
I want to make sure I'm
gonna
understanding.
walk it down. Hey Jay, if you don't mind me asking, how much money you make in ballpark?
Like 50, 55.
Is that enough? Is that enough for you to? Is that enough money to sustain you if you was all by yourself, and take care of two people? Well, you got a baby, right?
Yeah, I got 3 kids, man.
Okay, all right. So
actually 7. I'm sorry.
Right. So Terrell, if you don't mind answering the question, what's the ballpark?
I'm over. You know, personally, I'm over 6 figures, getting closer to changing a digit.
All right, that's cool. Caleb, you?
Hey, I got 3 kids, man. A lot of stuff. You know, it costs a lot of money to get that.
So Caleb, you?
260.
Around what?
260.
All right. So when you phrase that question, I would say most people, I'm nowhere near that. I ain't even gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? When you're saying that, like when you say 3 kids, you know what I'm saying? You do the math and like the area where you live at and how much money you're actually making. Is it enough to sustain you? So I guess we'll have to look at it from there. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is not making that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at it from a standpoint of an average person who's probably not in that bracket, make, like you say, maybe 35 to 50 with a wife, maybe kid or 2, something like that. You got to look at it like, is that really enough for my wife to not work?
Well,
Is that really
I mean,
enough for my wife? You know what I'm saying? So I said, look at it from a practical standpoint.
well, I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, I made 45,000 with 2 kids. So like I was making less than 50 grand with 2 kids and the only income in the house. So
Right.
I know
So
what
take
that
it from
feels.
there. So take it from there. And if your wife is having a hard time finding constant work, then how would you deal with that?
Well, I'll tell you how we dealt with it. We
All right, let's go.
we again had to make a decision. What's more valuable right now?
Mhm.
Right? And
Mhm.
for us, my wife going to work at that time, it wouldn't have even paid for childcare in that moment in time. And we said, okay, well, what's the cost? What's the balance for us? It was her being at home with the children, taking care of them in that moment was more valuable for us because she knew she had a thoroughbred horse, in the race, right? She had a background laughing, right? She had a thoroughbred that was not going to keep us at 50 grand, less than 50 grand. She knew, but here goes the thing. She also made sacrifices. When I came home from making 40 grand, I would put my face in a book for 2 hours. Right? I would go put my face in a book to say, I don't have the skills right now to change our income. And if you're not, yes, I can learn. Thank you, baby. She added in for this podcast today. I asked her not to, but she did. So I don't know how to figure that out. Somebody help me out with that one. No, I'm joking. But no, in all seriousness, I had to pick it up. I said, hey, right now, I can be the one to change the income faster than even you going back into the workforce at where we are skill set wise and opportunity. And that was something that we both invested in that. And once I put my face to those books, we went from 50 to 70 to 80 to 6 figures to consistently over 6 figures because she trusted that process, right? Now she's back out in the workforce. Kids are at a different place, different age. And now it's like, all right, babe, what do you want to do? I have a schedule now where I can invest the time to allow you to go back to school, to allow you to get back in the groove of things and go on and so forth, and have you. So that's been our process through it. It wasn't easy. As easy as I'm saying it, it was not that. But
yeah, and that's why I'm glad you were able to share that. And that's why, fellas, I'm glad that you guys have been able to share this information because the person that said this to me is straining their marriage. So you understand. So you guys have to understand. If you are tuning in, this is Founding Orders podcast. We talking about men's roles and marriage, right? And this is the one of the reasons why they kind of like strayed back from actually taking some steps in this relationship because their main issue is the lack of consistency with them holding a job, which is an issue for them because financially he needs to know that she can also hold down something in the household, right? In case of that, God forbid, he gets sick or he's not able to go out and work because of X, Y, and Z. Can she hold? And his thing is she'll have a job for maybe 2 months and quit. And the reason why I brought this up because I was that person in my relationship. Dana would tell you, I have no loyalty to no company. The only thing I'm loyal to is my check or my income. That is it. And the reason why I used to think like that is because I felt like they can replace me at any time that they want. So my whole mindset was, let me work these companies the same way they working me, get my check and roll out. But then as I got mature into my, in my age, I understood consistency was also important too as well, because if I keep leaving job to job, I won't be able to sustain good health insurance for my kids. I won't be able to get into no 401k or any type of savings plan. So then I started thinking like that. But in a marriage, when one spouse is the only breadwinner in that relationship, and the other person, not because they sick or anything like that, they just don't have that drive to stay at a one job. Is that something that is a detrimental to that relationship, as this brother, really wanted me to ask you guys?
Absolutely. If that's their value, if that's a foundational principle. Look, I remember I said it. One of the guys I listened to, he said it years ago. He said, listen, if you a 10, you marry a 3, or you a 10, you marry a 2, now y'all averaged out to a 6, and you're gonna be mad. right? And that in his mind, that's how he just, if he framed it up that way. He's like, if I'm a 10 and you a 2, that's 12 divided by 2, that's a 6. I don't want to live at a 6. And this is why it's so important that we don't just jump into marriages off of frivolous things or off of a good date or off of good looks. Like this is an investment of the most precious commodity that you have, time. I haven't figured out how to get any time back. And if I'm going to spend my time and invest my time and invest like something I can never get back, I need to make sure we're on the same playing field or have a clear understanding. Otherwise, we should not do it. If money is important to them and they're like, and obviously they're married now, so that's a different complexity. But let's say if somebody's out there listening and they're seeing this and you're dating, like it might not change. Are you okay if it never changes? You can't go like hope is not a strategy. I tell people that all the time. Hope is not a strategy. So you must know these things or at least have a good sense of them. And if it's not, you're better off not bringing kids in, bringing all your families together for something that you already know on the front end may not be able to sustain. So that's just my advice to people on the front. If you're already married, now we're going to have to figure it out and work together. Why isn't this person? Why can't my wife keep a job? Right? What's going on? Is there a self-esteem? We talked about, is there a self-esteem issue? How about this? Maybe she just haven't found nothing that she loves to do. This might be a quest where you help her find what she was born to do on this planet, right? Like there's a different type of, method, obviously, if you're already married. But if you married, you committed to it. Now, let's go solve a problem. Let's go solve a problem for who should be one of the most important people on the planet, is your spouse. Now, like, that's how I would look at it. Like, hey, baby, you don't know what you want to do. All right, I'm on. Let's go. Like, and now what do you think is going to happen from them, right? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to change. They're going to either change or you're going to be able to come around to have a different value system together of what is important. Because there may be something that they may be able to contribute that they're not even thinking about outside of money. So that's just my,
okay. And thank you so much for that, Terrell. I got a question for Jay and Caleb.
Right.
And Terrell, you can chime in on this too.
What's up?
Jay, is sex important in your marriage?
No.
Okay. Caleb.
No.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Caleb, let me ask you this. Jay, you got this smooth. You said no, it's not important. Caleb, you said yes, because I'm with you on this one, Caleb. I gotta have it. I need it. Caleb, you just answered. You said yes. What happens, or what happens if, let's say, you guys were humping around like jackrabbits, right? And then now you were married, and now you into the marriage, and now it's like you gotta clock in and ask for time with that. How do you work with that?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I've been through that. I've been through. I'm gonna be fully transparent. I've been through where, humping like rabbits and so forth, and then it goes from like once every week, then once a month. Just all these different variables. And marriages go through that. At first, I ain't gonna fake. I was like, whoa, like this is weird. Like this is what we, you sort of save yourself to, get married, and then then it's blessed, versus having premarital sex and so forth. But one of the things that I had to figure out is that it's yes, the physical is very important because it's one of the things that keeps your connection. However, I was presented in marriage counseling one time about that, where and it was a good challenge, where it's like, say something happened to your spouse and they was unable to give you sex anymore, would you still love them? They was paralyzed or something like that and they couldn't do anything. Would you still love them the same way that you loved them when you guys were sexing and everything like that? And it was one of those things where it made you kind of like change your perspective on, like, yes, I need the physical. However, in a marriage, sometimes that physical changes in a sense. Sometimes it may be sex. Sometimes it may just be quality time. Sometimes it may be, just traveling together, whatever the case may be. But it does keep that connection. And I always say, when you do go through those dry spells and stuff like that, you quickly gotta catch it and talk about, hey, what's going on with you? Have some honest conversations. Say, hey, under this sweatsuit is a man. You know what I'm saying? Like that has needs and so forth. You know, and also too, we're not supposed to keep ourselves from each other as well. You know what I'm saying? So when you're in a marriage, you know, your body's no longer yours, and vice versa. You know. That's my
and look, this is a live interactive. This is a live interactive podcast. I see J.C. Dorsey says, "Yeah, mama still loved him, but they're gonna have to give me another lover." So, so listen, fellas, this is a serious question. And Jay, you said no, and I would like for you to elaborate on that, please.
I mean, the reason why I say no is because when you're getting enough of it, and this was owed to you, why is it so important to you?
Say that again.
I said, if you're getting enough of it, when you first meet somebody, yeah, you're in the honeymoon stage, you're fucking like crazy, having sex anywhere and everywhere around the house, sometimes in the car, sometimes at a place you ain't supposed to be. So at the end of the day, but then when you're with this woman and this woman is exclusive to you, why would it ever change? Why would that attraction ever change? Why would that she ever, oh, just not tonight? And you're like, oh, just not right now. Oh, we ain't got the time. Oh, we got the kids. At the end of the day, if this is your relationship, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, no man, and I say no man, should never be denied sex from this part. Never.
Hey, that sounds great. I'm telling you, it sounds good. But I told Kojo don't talk about it, but the very first book that I wrote was How to Get Some from Your Wife. All right. So, and funny enough, it was a funny book. I literally wrote it out of joking around. And one of the statements in the book is, you know, as soon as I said I do, her vagina said I don't. Right. And literally it went from in college full throttle to, you know, full transparency. The first time we ended up having sex after marriage was 3 weeks after marriage. So let's talk. You want to have a real serious conversation. Think about that for a second. You know, like I grew up in the church, right? So it was like, don't have sex before you get married. And then I finally get married. I'm like, all right, finally, this ain't a sin. And I waited 3 weeks, right? No honeymoon, none of that stuff. So what happened, right? Well, guess what? We just had our baby boy 6 months earlier. And come to find out, my wife finally opened up years later and said, I was terrified of becoming pregnant again. And I just couldn't get the energy to talk to her, to say it, right? She was terrified of becoming pregnant again. She felt uncomfortable in her own body because she went through a traumatic experience. 33 hours of labor, y'all. My wife went through 33 hours of labor for my first son at a maternity center in Miami, no drugs. No drugs. So I know, you know, like literally we went through their entire staff of people to when it was time to have the baby. You had a water birth. Literally half the staff was there. It was like one of them TV shows. Like they're like revealing the house. It was like revealing the baby. I'm like, man, everybody's just looking at my wife and all her stuff. We in this pool. They're like, we here for this baby because you've been here for so long. But that was a traumatic experience. While a beautiful experience, it also was a traumatic experience for my wife that she did not want to go through immediately again. And so we don't know what's going on sometimes, right? Through our marriage. And so I ended up writing a book about it because there was a difference in our sex life on the front end of it. But at the end of the day, the one thing that I talked about in the book was it was about truly understanding this woman, understanding where she's coming through, understanding what's valuable to her, because obviously sex has adjusted. Now, as life is going on, marriage is going on, it's not the issue, right? But there were periods of time where it was an issue, and it was something very serious and personal to her. And if I'm a loving and supporting husband, I got to go through that. I'm going through it, whether I want to or not. I'm going through it. So I'd rather go through it positively than go through it complaining and frustrated about it, as if I'm going to go through the process anyway. So that's just my take. That yes. I've had all those conversations. Look what the Bible say. Your body is not yours. It's mine. Look, I'm giving, you know, we at the end of the day, they're a person and they got free will. And so if that's the case, I gotta figure it out. Otherwise, I'm just going to make it worse than it already is. And I choose not to make life harder than already life can be, life can already be hard enough. I choose not to make it any harder. So
hey Terrell, you saying all the right stuff because I know
I
she's
think
still
Terrell
right
got to
there.
be the second coming of Solomon or something, man. I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Terrell, listen, hold on.
Hey, come on, man. Come on, man. This guy came straight from heaven.
The only reason why Terrell is saying all this stuff is because she's holding the frying pan standing next to him.
She left. She just came back in. This is real talk. This is real talk. I really
I'm messing with you.
I'm being honest.
Hey, can I keep it real quick? I'm not trying to be offensive or nothing, man. I just want to be really real with you. It's real talk and it's honest, but it's not realistic. You feel what I'm saying?
What is realistic? But that's my point. You say it's not realistic. I'll say this: just because it's hard doesn't make it not realistic.
Bro, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying
that's real talk.
This is what I'm saying. This is how I'm saying it. The way you're presenting it and how you're saying it, logically and all that stuff, it makes sense. But what I'm trying to get to is, and what me and JoJo really want to have a discussion about, like all of these things to me sound like it's like something you read out of a psych magazine. Like, okay, this is Women's Health magazine. Oh yeah, we know this. Okay, this is enlightened. This is what we're supposed to do. But as a man and as a husband going through these things, the trial and error, the pain, the situation, like all that stuff, like say for instance, right? I'm not, and there's no disrespect to anybody, I'm not really into like the pinkies, the real heavy set, Buffy the Body type women. I'm not into the big girls like that, right? But if you in a marriage and one day you look up and 2 years later and your girl done gained 200, 300, 400 pounds and it's not attractive to you, like that's not what you like looking at. One day your wife, you look at her and she's not what you desire no more. It's not like you talking about the things that you're doing or the things that you're saying to actually deal with that. Like all of this stuff will sound great. To me, I look at it like a politician. Like a politician gonna say all the right things, gonna make it sound cute and this, that, and the other. Or even in church, right? Pastors preach about all the good things that Jesus did and all this other stuff. And they talk about walk around the city 7 times, right? But they make that sound so easy. Now you think about, you walk around Baltimore, this is what I'm talking about. You put everything in perspective. You walk around Baltimore 7 times. That is the entire city. You have to walk around that 7 times without getting discouraged, without, like, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the mentality. I want to talk about the process. I don't care about the cookie cutter stuff.
Let me say something real quick. Let me say something real quick because this is important. Do not take the elegance at which I speak as anything is easy. Let's keep it real. Just because I've gotten to a place of 15 plus years of marriage, I can talk about it and simplify it because I want to help somebody else. But the process in which you go through this, there's nothing about it that's hard. There's nothing about it hard. I am giving you, hey, these are the principles. For example, you talk about somebody gaining weight. My wife met me. She met me at 200 and let's call it 20 pounds. I went to 293. She told me she loved me the whole time, and I said, "You lying." I told her she lied for 13 of the year or 10 plus years as I gained my weight. But she never faltered on, "I'm with you." I went through making love, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to be on top anymore, girl, because I'm bigger than I used to be. Yes, there were insecurities. Yes, there were frustrations, but she taught me a valuable lesson, which is I'm with you. Like I'm down with you. That love is there for you. And now I lost 70 of those pounds. I'm back less than what she met me at with a better body. And I'm like, girl, I know you love me more. And she's like, honestly, no. It doesn't matter. She's like, that didn't matter for me because I was so linked to you on a physical side. Now, if I started doing other things, she may have a different conversation. But for that to give an example. So I plead with anybody. I'm saying the right things because they've worked for me. And I may make them sound easy, but I promise you right now, there's nothing easy about it. There was nothing easy about coming home one day and telling my wife, hey, we ran out of money. It's Wednesday. Now, mind you, when I'm supposed to be the breadwinner, it's Wednesday. we only got and she said, well, baby, we only got enough food to go to Friday and only enough for the kids. I said, well, guess what? I got real spiritual. I said, I guess we ought to fast. We ought to fast then. We ought to fast, right?
So,
right?
hey, Terrell,
Yeah.
hold on. You just made a perfect point. This is where it's going to have everybody come down to realization. So therefore, listen, what I was saying was, guys, listen, is anybody in this room married or have, Terrell, don't answer this question, or married or have the woman that gave them the best pussy of their life?
Repeat that one more time. I want to make sure I got you right.
But don't answer this question though. Is anybody in this room have or married the woman that gave them the best sex of their life?
I ain't gonna lie. I if I could have given 15 kids, I'd have given 15 kids, man. I ain't even gonna cap. But she's not. Hold on. With that being said, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. She's not the freakiest that I've been with.
Okay.
So I settled for that aspect. I settled because of the other qualities that she brings to the table.
So sex wasn't important.
No, it is. It's very important.
It's very important, but it's not.
It's good. No, it's important. Let me tell you something. One, I'm African, so I need to have it. I have to have it. I'm not just not denying that.
We're men.
No. I'm a different kind of a man here. I have to have it. Not let the accent come out, so maybe you understand, bro. I have to have it. She gives it to me, but she doesn't give it to me the way that I wanted it. So I had to settle in the sense that I became more of the pleasing than to actually get pleased.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Sex to me, yes, as Terrell eloquently said, everybody have a way of working through certain things and making it work for them. Me, in my situation, it wasn't everything that I was used to or what I wanted. But because she brought other qualities to the table, it was enough for me to say, I'm going to let this go. Even though I desire this, you give me enough for me to stay here.
Right.
So it's still important, because if she took the little bit that she's giving me away, it's going to be a problem.
So, but then let's look at the facts. Even though you're getting it, but it's not as freaky as it is. Because I can say the same thing to my wife. Listen, I'm not with the best person in my life, but boy, I get where I need to get with her, and I love it, and I will keep going back to it. So that's how I say. And then I had to sit down and say to myself, well, you know what, sex and all that, because I love this woman. I loved her at a totally different level, better than just something physical. This is mind, spiritual, everything. So therefore, as men, we do need to bust a nut. Hell yeah. Come on, man. We wake up with it. The first thing on our mind, our dick's telling us, nigga, we need some pussy. It's hard. It's ready. We feel it. But guess what? We can get it from our wives, and then guess what? We can have our bars ready by the time we get out of here. An hour later, we're going to see a fat ass robot like, goddamn, okay. I know I ain't supposed to touch it, because I would never lose my house over a hotel. We understand that. But we understand that, just like how you said, I needed, she wasn't the freakiest, but I married her because there were other best qualities than that. And because if it wasn't, you would have married that freak bitch. I'm trying to
I think the conversation kind of got twisted a little bit, because I ain't talking about like leaving.
No. I'm just saying.
Well, I guess my thing is, like you said, I'm not attracted to big women. Like, I'm just not. You know, that's not my cup of tea. That's not my thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm very big on that. And it goes back to the conversation, man, JoJo had the other day. It was like, you can't expect something from somebody that you yourself ain't willing to do. See, that's what I'm like, where I'm trying to come at from the whole situation. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because to say that it's not happening in the world, it happened to a partner of mine. The same thing he was saying. But unlike, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, his wife's still with him, but do she still find him attractive? And not only that, if it happened to you, if the shoe's on the other foot, like you said, my thing is, at the end of the day, why would I want to look at another woman? I don't want, you know what I'm saying? Like, I told somebody, no man in the history of ever turned down sex with a woman because they ain't had no butt. Yet they want to go out here and keep getting butts. No, none of these things really matter. Oh, shorty, you ain't got no edges. Nobody care about that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But there
I
are
see what
some
you're saying.
people who are like that's what I'm saying. Like, why won't you be the object of my affection?
Mm.
I don't want to get it from nowhere else. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, why is we don't have those type of conversations? We, like I said, we can sit up here and say, like, because this is what I learned. There's a difference between somebody that say they love you, and there's a difference between somebody that's a critic. A critic is going to criticize you all day long and tell you what you're doing wrong. But somebody that loves you is going to get in it with you. Hey, baby, you know what I'm saying? Let's go have a walk after we finish eating. You know what I'm saying? Hey, baby, let's go and start exercising more. Those are the things I'm talking about as far as a man, where you open up and actually have those conversations.
Okay.
I don't, like I said, like, you know, not like I said, no disrespect or anything, but like I said, I don't care about saying the right thing or any of that. But I'm also concerned about is how you say it. How do those conversations get started? How do you really dig into the situation when it's at a dire? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know this one girl said her husband has to work overnight because he snores when he sleep. You feel what I'm saying? Like, she can't get with that.
Hey, she's petty.
She was saying, like, yo, in the other room, if the door's closed, I can hear him snoring that loud through the doorway. So it's
he
like,
has to switch it up his life.
I'm like, yo, these are like real conversations, and we can say it's petty. We can give like a cookie cutter thing, but it's like, yo, how much of this are we actually having a real conversation about it?
I think we do have the conversation.
Scenarios to really be like, because like I said, my solution would be, hey, baby, let's go for a walk. Not only that, if I feel like, you know what I'm saying, I don't want a big girl, guess what? I'm out here running. I'm out here riding my bike. That's why I'm trying to lose weight now. Because I can't expect to get a woman that takes care of herself if I ain't taking care of myself. So those are the, like, to me, like the real, like, in-depth conversations that we need to have, not only as men, but one another, to really like move the conversation and evolve us as men. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's why you got to have those conversations on the front end, right? Like, I mean, obviously what happens is so many people get married and then we want to have the conversation once we pissed off. And once we get frustrated, right, about it. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to have every conversation before marriage, right? But you got to have a thing called full, like we call it full transparency. Like when you asked at the end about the lime green shirt, right? We were joking on the last podcast. Like, my wife is a chef.
I was actually curious about that, but okay.
She went to school for being a chef, right?
Right.
We're very honest with each other about the food. I know there's like, it's taboo. You better not say it don't taste good. But me and my wife would be like, she's like, hey, how'd that taste? And I'm like, this wasn't it, baby. This wasn't it. And she's like, all right, boom, bet. Tell me why. And then I would say it was a little salty, a little this, a little undercooked, blah, blah, blah. When I cook, you got to have that on the front end of your relationship so that you can deal with stuff that comes up later. Right? Like, you may have gotten with somebody, or I may have gotten with somebody that, let's say,
happens in the middle though. Like, because I know couples that's been married for years, right? The wife is not contributing as much to the finances.
Yep.
What the guy don't really understand is that he just worship money. You know what I'm saying? That's what he don't understand. So now it's like, oh, yo, you don't cook dinner no more. You don't do this no more. You don't do that no more. And it's like all of this, he's firing off complaints. You know what I'm saying? But not looking at himself as a man to take accountability for his own actions. You know what I'm saying? So what do you say to the people that's already in it, who has been doing it for years? See, don't like, let's overall like just dig all into that.
Well, look, whenever and this is like, it's gonna sound like the right thing to say, but I'm telling you, if anybody know me, this is how I roll. The first time, if I'm having a consistent problem in my marriage, I go straight to the mirror. After I get done complaining enough, then I have to go to the mirror. And I got to say, okay, Terrell, this is what I literally say to myself. If this never changes from her, because you can't change her, nothing you can do can change her, how you going to get through this? It's because at the end of the day, look, we all got free will. God can't even tell us what to do. Like, for real. So
you
how do I
stay in misery? So you
no. It's not about living in misery. No. Let's. I want to get that clear real quick. It's not about living in misery. It's about, I'm going to the mirror to say, this is something that I do not like about something this other person is doing.
So she don't have no accountability for her actions, none of that.
We ain't got to that part yet, my friend. We haven't got there yet.
All right.
all change starts with me. If I want something to change, I go to me first. Then once I get me and I say, okay, this needs to change. For example, there was a time where I wanted more money in the house and I wanted her to be the one to bring it in so that I didn't have to go hustle harder, right? If you will. I said, okay, Terrell, she's not in a place yet to do it. I'm asking her the questions. I'm talking to her. I'm working through it with her. She's just not there. So then what am I going to do? Am I about to break it up because she's in a broken
state have a conversation with her and tell her how she's not holding up her end though.
But okay, here goes. It's not about, okay, yes, you do tell her. When I talk about having a conversation with her, if we were saying, hey, we're going 50-50 on something, let's just use that for example, right? We're paying a bill, we're going 50-50. And then she's unable to do the 50-50, well, 100% of that bill still got to get paid. I'm just using a bill as a clean example here. If she's not doing it, at that point in time, I'm like, hey, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. But you know what? I got it. Then if it's consistently not there, or her holding up that end of the bargain, I'm going to go back to the mirror and I'm going to say, okay, is this worth ending my marriage over? Is this worth?
I feel like that to me is the last result. You know what I'm saying?
But that's your line.
But I feel like
that's your line. I don't really have that line. Is not my line. If you're talking about money, right? That's not my line. Where let's say if she cheated on me, and I forgave her, and then she came back. Now I may have a line after a certain point in time with that. So you're going to have to make up in your mind what is your line of I'm not going to take this anymore, and you're going to have to own it regardless.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not just about finances. I'm not trying to make it about money.
No.
I'm talking about overall happiness. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what I'm saying. As a man, you can't tell me that that's an easy thing to do, to go out there and work every day, to take on the burdens of this world, and then you come back home and you keep doing all the heavy lifting. You know what I'm saying? And then you just keep letting somebody keep going by, making excuses on why they can't do what they supposed to do.
Man, hey, last time I checked, last time I read my Bible, it said, what if they did it 7 times 70? And they said, and they said, come on. And last time I checked, look, you're gonna have.
I didn't want to hear that.
No, I'm being real. Like, let's keep it above.
That's not even what that refers to, though.
No. But my point is, I don't want to get in a theological conversation around the scripture without clear context, because I don't play like that. So, but my point is what I'm trying to say is this: you're gonna have a line. Everybody's gonna have a line of what they call happiness. And what I always say is, am I not happy right now because it's hard? And am I willing to get to a point and stick it out to get to a point of happiness? Because I promise you right now, I could have ended my marriage 3 years in because I wasn't happy. I could have ended my marriage 10 years in, my brothers, because I wasn't happy at a point in time. I could have ended my marriage 2 years when I first moved to Philly because I was the worst place ever in my marriage, ever. Like, we really talking real talk here. Worst place ever. I hated coming home every day. Hated it. And guess what I said? Is it worth ending? And I looked at myself in the mirror and said, you still got some more work to do before you blame it on somebody else. And that's why I'm here today. Is my marriage perfect? Hell no. Hell no. Am I happy every day? Hell no. But guess what?
I think that's not the premise of what I'm trying to say, but it's okay.
But that's where it went, and I want to share that to somebody else because we talked about being happy. You mentioned that, so I want to get it out there.
Bro, if you are in a union, in a partnership with somebody, and this is a job, this is a contract. Like if you want a job with you contractors, if you hired a contractor and you get a contract. And he come in and do a job and he's doing work. And now you got to cover his job and your job, or anybody that got co-workers and they not doing their job. Anybody just naturally, like at some point in time, and don't get me wrong, anybody that knows me that's watching this knows about 80% of the things that you're saying, I already agree with and have said. You know what I'm saying? I agree with a lot of things. Like I got upset with a partner of mine, right? Over some kind of business stuff. I'm the type of person that, like I said, I'm gonna look in the mirror first. I'm gonna calm down because at one point in time, I'm never going to just let my feelings go out there. I'm gonna correct myself and I'm gonna understand what it is that I'm mad at and what I'm upset about. All the time is not me. All the time is something that somebody else has done.
Mhm.
That's why I say get knowledge, get wisdom, all you're getting an understanding. My biggest thing is about understanding the situation. So now when I understand the situation, I can go back and understand what needs to be fixed and correct about the situation. You know what I'm saying? I remember coming home saying, hey, I'm not happy. You know what I'm saying? And I had a solution of happy. But at the time, we were so young, I didn't understand what emotional manipulation was. So now it's like there's other key things that play into that to sit back and say, you're allowing somebody else to emotionally manipulate you so they can continue to give you the short end of the spoon. And that's not always the truth. That's not always saying that burden falls on us as men. That's not always our responsibility. Because at some point in time, like I said, rather it's their insecurities, rather it's something that's going on inside of them. It's not just sit back and say like we supposed to be superhuman just because we are the head of a house. Just because we're the head of the household and we're supposed to take on the brunt work of the responsibility. This is a partnership. Somebody else has to come and meet you with something in this partnership.
Yes,
Other
but it
than
may
that,
not always be. But it ain't gonna always be perfectly clean every time.
I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
You're absolutely right.
I'm not saying it's not going to always be clean, but at some
hold on, guys.
Partnership.
Hold on. Let Jay chime in. Go ahead, Jay.
Listen, check this out. I see what you're trying to say. At the end of the day, you're sitting here saying that if you meet your woman and she weighs, let's say, 180 pounds, and because you don't like bigger women, let's just say throughout these years, you met her at 20, 30, she's still good, but then 40, boy, she blew up, right? How do we get past if she ends up blowing up? She already popped you out a couple kids. She ain't all that big. She may gain about 50 pounds, but then come 40, 45, our metabolism ain't what it was, and she's looking different to you. So what you're asking is, how in that man's state of mind, how can we still find that woman attractive? Correct.
Not just find her attractive, but the process of, like you said, getting back to that affection of being the object of my affection. So for the most part, yes, you're correct. But it's the process of how you do that. So that's what I'm also talking about.
Yeah, so the process of seeing this woman, knowing that she's aging, knowing that she's getting older, knowing that she ain't the same dime that you met her as. So, I mean, it's just that process of how you still view that woman. And just like how you said, if you have somebody that's not fulfilling their role when you're with them, it's almost like she's not keeping up. She's not keeping her end of the bargain. She's not keeping up on her weight. She can't find a job. So then it's like, you got to understand this. And I understand what you're saying because, and you just said something saying that why are men taking so much blunt of the role, like we're being blamed for everything. So I can tell you this. The reason why men are being blamed everything, if you had a wife and kids and they was out without you, and your wife was out with some booty shorts, your kids was yelling at her and everything else, I ain't gonna judge that woman or them child, I'm gonna judge you.
No, I'm just saying as far as the responsibility. Yeah. Like, why do we feel like we have to be superhuman?
Because
that's what we're creating.
I think this is a two-part conversation. Like the podcast is about the man's role. Like the man's role, right? Like, and I think y'all should do another one for the women's role too, to have a full context of this. Just an idea, right? I'm pretty sure you guys already got it. But again, I do believe there's times where we do need to be superheroes in our households. And there's going to be times where there was times when my wife was the superhero of the household. And it goes back and it does go back and forth between a relationship that wants to. Now, if you're saying, and I think I heard you say it when you went through the second part, which is you see somebody over there that let's just call it quit on it. They're manipulating, they're playing you, they're really not there, and you don't see them even trying to muster anything, and you've come to the end of the road with that. Obviously, I don't know if there is something you deal with or you just end it. That goes back to that's your end point. Yeah. I don't know. I can say I don't know what that feels like, because even when my wife was at her worst, I saw enough of a spark that said, all right, let me stay in this. And when I was at my worst, I showed her enough of a spark that said, okay, I can stick with this dude. Marriage is one of the most difficult things you're going to do. This is why, like, the Bible talks about, like, don't play with marriage. It ain't that easy. Don't play with that. It's a serious thing, because it changes who you are. You change. You're constantly going, this person's evolving, right? Like, there's a lot of things that go there. They bring up trauma. My wife brings up so much trauma from my childhood, it ain't even funny, right? But guess what? It's my trauma. I bring up trauma from her childhood, and we got to work through that stuff. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're married now, as you said before, and you look over at your partner and you're like, this ain't who I want anymore, and this ain't what I want to have.
It's, like I said, I think to me that's an extreme. You know what I'm saying? But again, to me, you can't. Like, to me, it's still the process, though. The process is actually getting it from a bad situation to getting it to a manageable situation or a certain understanding. Because this is one of the things that prompted me to say this. I was looking at a video earlier, right? And there was a lawyer on there. And although I feel like he was manipulating kind of like the stats on it, this is what he was saying. Most women nowadays are filing for divorce, and they're doing these things because they got to come home, they have to cook, they have to clean, they have to do, take care of the kids, do laundry, so forth and so on, right? And then, like I said, then I look at it from a male's perspective, right? We, not to say that deadbeat dude, I'm not talking about him because he's just the worst, right? No woman, no man, no, and I was saying this, no real man is going to allow a woman to do that anyway. You know what I'm saying? But if you're looking at it from a man's perspective, right? And you have to deal with, like, it's just like I said, we do have desires. It's just this is who we is. I'm with JoJo. I feel like I have a very strong and a very high sexual drive. But then, like you said, when the woman feels like after she get hers, then you stuck on your own. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you going to do about that after a while? You can sit up here and quote the Bible and do all this other stuff all day long. But the question becomes, like, what do you actually do? Well, what is the process that you actually do?
Good. I'm not trying to be funny, but that's the truth. Like, those are the things that I do. And look, there's no perfect answer.
And God ain't coming down here pleasing you, bro.
You say what?
God ain't gonna please you.
Well, first off, what we talked about is this. You said, what is it that you would do? There is no perfect answer because I don't have your woman. You don't have my woman. You ain't me. She ain't me. So everybody's answer is going to be a little bit different.
If I may, Terrell, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I
understand it too.
I know you do. I think what it is that when that question is presented to different individuals with different personalities and how they will deal with certain situations in different relationships, right? And one thing I can say is that, and Aaron, I love the fact that you brought this up because we as men do carry a lot of burden that we get overlooked a lot of the time. But then I remember a saying that somebody told me, said, heavy is the head that wears the crown. We have to bear a lot of the responsibilities that come with our everyday, that we are going to get overlooked. But a lot of the situations, we as men need to have that voice in the space of it being genuine and not being as a detriment to our relationships, where we can say, look, I am tired. It's okay for a man to speak up and say, look, I don't have that strength to do it. But I think because the perception that the world has given us, we as men, we carry these burdens, and a lot of us fall short of that glory because we don't get to have our voice heard. And I think what Terrell is saying is that he has a different way of practicing that. One thing I know about Terrell is, I get it. One thing I know about Terrell is what he do is not what I would do. His struggle won't be the same way my struggle would be. Jay right now is going into a relationship where he's fine. His relationship may be, is great what it is right now. But one thing that I do know, as beautiful as loving as I love my wife, and as I know as great as she is, when she put that ring on, it changed. A lot of things changed. The sex changed. The way she talked to me changed. The affectionate changed. Me wouldn't even be touching the playing her hair changed. The cooking changed. The cleaning changed. Right? So Jay saying all of that now, he's going to go through that phase. How he deals with that phase is me basically telling him, like, hey, I'm preparing you for this. This is some of the things that you may encounter. If it don't happen, I thank God, because you ain't got to go through some of the stress that I went through. But if it do happen, this is what you got to deal with. Caleb understands what he got to go through because Caleb has already gone through it. Caleb, if I may, and I don't mean any disrespect, Caleb had a situation where, by the grace of God, he just had his first child, right? And I know for a fact, at least in my culture, that is the number one thing that makes women and men get divorced in my country is the lack of having a child, because they feel like it's a curse. And most of the time they blame the man. I mean, the man blames the women, right? And it's something that he prayed about. And I remember praying with Caleb. I fasted with Caleb. I even called my mom to fast for Caleb, right? So that way him and his beautiful wife can have that blessing of a wedding, from marriage. Now, that situation, I may not be able to deal with that. I might have rolled out and left Dana. So when he tells you, when he says, you know what, this is what I do, I look in the mirror and I ask myself these questions. These are some of the things that, Terrell, I have learned along the way without anybody telling me. Dana hates it when I come aggressively, right? So it took me a long time to figure this out. But as I figured it out, I'm like, all right, she don't like it when I come aggressive. I want to get my point across. I'm mad. How do I approach that situation? What I started doing was I say it in a way where it doesn't seem like I'm attacking. I'm like, hey, I want to ask you a question. What do you think about this? Did you pay for this? Was this done? Because it's been times where when I got with Dana used to get the rent, but Dana wouldn't pay the rent money. She would get the rent money, but she wouldn't pay the rent. Mm-hmm. Where I didn't came to the house where I didn't have the yellow slips on my door being about to be evicted with my kids. And I sat it down and I said, let me tell you something. One thing you're not going to play with me on is where me and my kids lay our head. That is something that I had to address with her very quickly, because finances was something that I saw my parents struggle with. So one thing I didn't want to do was I didn't want to have that in my relationship. I'd rather have all my bills paid for. My kids got a place to rest their head. They got food to eat, and I ain't got no money in my pocket to go play a lotto or something. You get what I'm saying? So it's different strategies for different folks, but it's a lot of responsibility that we as men, we force ourselves to take. But the problem is that we don't have these type of dialogues. And because we don't have these type of dialogues, we feel like we don't have an outlet. And that's the biggest concern to me, that's why we having these conversations. What are our roles? Our role is not to be the ones being drowned in the bills. No, you ask for this, you ask for equality. By the grace of God, you got this equality. You wanted the same rights I had as a man to share that responsibility. If that's the case, then you take your butt out there, you get a job, and you bring some of that bacon in this household. That's just how I look at it.
Now,
hey,
I think this is.
I agree with you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I agree with you 1,000%, 1,000%. And what I'm saying is, what I'm realizing is, Paul said, I became something to all people so that I can win a few, right? If you notice, I never said directly my response to the questions. I'm asking to get perspective and answers, because I never really addressed my situation or my stance on any of these questions. Mm-hmm. But what I realize is, and again, this is like no slight, the things that Terrell is saying to me is triggering, because it makes me, it's one of the reasons why I can't stand church. It's the reason why I can't stand religion and religious people. And I'm not saying that's you, but I'm saying a lot of people use those same premises and those same answers to sit back and oppress people and make them think that they're supposed to go through certain things and bear these certain, me and you were talking about that earlier, JoJo. Like, we supposed to just take this thing. Like, I heard this one pastor say, well, who gave you the right to rebuke the devil? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's actually in the Bible. We don't have to suffer. We don't have to go through certain things. And I'm not saying it from the standpoint of, like just being strong and taking. I'm saying that, like, those are dialogues. It's counseling. It's sitting back and, talking to a therapist. those are like what I would say my response to a lot of the questions that I was asked. But again, we as people don't talk about therapy. We as men don't talk about going to talk about our issues and our problems. So that's what I was saying as far as a lot of it sound like, church people will say, oh, we know all things work out for the good of them who love the Lord. Like, for somebody that's really going through something, that is not a sufficient answer. That is not an answer that is going to help somebody get through something. It's what you're basically saying is like, just hold on to blind faith, or just hold on, everything's going to work itself out. But my thing is, if you actually dig into certain things, right? Like, for example, Philippians 4:7. It says, the peace that passes all understanding shall guard your heart and mind through Christ Jesus, right? Somebody will probably say something like that to somebody that's going through something. But then, if you actually read 8 and 9, it gives you the answer. So my thing is, I don't want to be on a platform, or I don't want to talk to people if we're not going to actually give people like real solutions. Like, it sounds simple, it sounds easy. Like I said, like majority of things you said, I really do agree with. But I really wanted to have the dialogue to pull it out, so that we can actually get to the bottom of some things, so that somebody that's out there, like I know who having like real issues. Like, I literally got in an argument over this earlier today.
Can I ask you a question, Aaron? Can I ask you a question? Because you brought something up and you said it was triggering. Is it possible that because you were so triggered, you didn't hear that practical answer that I gave?
No. I heard exactly what you said.
Oh, no, I just want to make sure.
Like I said, it's what you gave was practical surface answers.
But see, okay, but
realistically, any real man is going to stand by their wife. Any real man is going to take on those burdens. Any real man is going to do those things.
Now, when you say surface,
what I was trying to ask you and get clarity on was the process of you as a man having to deal with that.
And so we'll go back to it, because I think this is a very important thing, because I want to be able to have some say in this too, because you're talking directly about something that I said. We talk about the practicalness of it. We'll go back again. Your marriage might be a circle. My marriage might be a square. Caleb's marriage might be a triangle, right? Meaning what you have is what you have.
I think you're changing the topic.
No. See, you got to hear me out. See, again, I feel like you're not listening because you get caught in the setup of the context of my answer, right? So I'll go through this again. The first thing, you talk about practicality, right? Whenever I have a problem, and I have a problem in my marriage, the first thing that I do is go straight to the mirror. That is the most practical answer I can give anybody, because of the simple fact that you are in this situation. You're in this situation for a reason. Why? You have to come to an understanding, which is actually something that you said later on when you began to talk about, let me understand, because you talked about a partnership, right? A business partnership. It's the first thing. Then you go through and you have that conversation with that individual, which we talked about again before. That is the natural progression of any relationship that you're going to have. Like, that's just the natural thing of the conversation you're going to have when you have a problem with somebody. And then from there, it goes into, well, what are they going to say? What's going to go back and forth? Then it becomes you and your marriage and you and your relationship. Kojo just talked about that. He can't go hot at Dana, right? With my wife, when we're disagreeing, I have to be 8 feet away from her, because she has trauma of what she's seen from a man hitting a woman in her past. So I know if I'm not 8 feet away and we're going back and forth, then she's not listening to anything that I'm going to say. And so there is some things that are here that you can't answer, because it's going to be specific to the individual that you're with at the end of the day. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because you said something.
I hear, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. And like I said, I know I've been through certain things. You've been through certain things. There are just so many men and so many women that realistically, there's an underlying answer for a lot of things. Like I said, counseling. Forgive me if I really didn't hear you speak of the part, because I really didn't hear that part when you saying you was actually addressing the issue. I didn't hear you say that you was addressing the issue with your partner. I just heard
said it multiple times. I heard you say today and on the first podcast. Just to be very transparent with you, because we have a real conversation.
Say it again.
that we're having a real conversation. That's why I asked you. It sounds like you got so triggered. I watched your body language depressed down that I don't know if you even heard me when I started answering the questions.
Yeah, again, the questions that you said to me from my answer, from what you saying, is that you took on most of the responsibility. You looked in the mirror, you prayed, and you just handled it the way that you would handle it. And again, that's what I was saying. Like, how do you have those conversations? Again, there's another topic that I wanted to have. You having sex with your wife, but then your wife turned around and tell you, "Hey, man, you ain't hitting it the way you're supposed to hit it. I'm not satisfied with how you're doing it."
Been there.
These are questions. These are questions and conversations that I wanted to have with men. Like I had a dude tell me indirectly that he had erectile dysfunction, but as a man, we can't have those conversations. What am I supposed to tell him? Hey, man, just go to the gym, lose some weight, get a penis pump. You know what I'm saying? Like, but him as a man, the internal feelings that he has, the fact that he feels like he don't have anybody to talk to about those type of things, that was more so like what I was trying to draw out, the process of that. You know what I'm saying? The brotherhood, the unity. I just don't care to have general broad conversations without giving somebody's, like, you can encourage people all day long, but that encouragement, like I said, like on Sunday mornings and stuff like that, you encourage people all day long. But then when Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday hit, and now you shooting with live bullets, and don't nobody really have no real substance on how to get through the situation, because Jesus had a deliverance ministry. If we're not trying to give people something to help them be delivered and help them to fight and carry through, then what's the use of doing anything? And that's my personal point of view. I don't want to just give somebody something that's going to be like, okay, you know, that's easier said than done. Oh, yeah, but when you actually going through it, like you said, if somebody's hungry and you can't, like the Bible said, you can't tell them, go turn them around. I wish you can help, but you got food in your house. Like, don't nobody want to hear that. Like, you got to meet these people needs. I don't want to just sit there and say, yo, I'm hungry for knowledge. I'm hungry for, thirsty for information or wisdom so that I can get through. We have wisdom to get through. Maybe certain people aren't free enough in their testimonies or the things that they've been through to express those things. But, you know, some people, me and JoJo, we talked about it before. We don't care. I don't care. I don't have no cut cards. I don't have no secrets. I'm not ashamed about nothing that I've been through or have done. I'm an open book to anybody. So that was more so the process that I wanted to get through. Like, I want to have a real heartfelt conversation about the time when, you know, I wanted intimacy time with my wife, but her idea of intimacy time was sitting on the sofa watching television.
Yikes.
I'm not going to sit back and be like, oh, God, fill me. Oh, God, give me strength. I'm not going to do that. That's a conversation that we need to have. Hey, baby, you know what I'm saying? But at the time, I was just too young and too ignorant to have that type of conversation. I didn't know how to have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Me being older now, I know how to have that conversation moving forward. Again, I have a high sex drive, but my sex life was not like that when I was married. So now, like you said, I agree with you 1,000%. When you go into these conversations, that's why I said I never disagreed with what you said. You know, this is the reason why I'm still single now. I'm single for 13 years now. 13 years I've been single. I've almost got close once. But my thing is, like, I learned how to lay the foundation from the mistakes that I've made. I learned how to have these conversations before I get into them, because I'm not going to get into a situation and things never fix themselves. Again, we believe and know that things are going to change, but most women want things to stay the same. And that's where the conflict of interest comes in.
All right, with that being said, fellas, man, we have already gone over almost an hour and 30 minutes in. Again, I would love to thank you guys. I would, definitely, Jay, Terrell, Caleb. Thank you so much for the, for the input. Thank you so much for the nuggets that everybody has dropped on here. I feel like I've taken a lot from this conversation. Jay, I wish you nothing but blessings into your marriage. Terrell, I pray that you continue to have the success in your marriage. Caleb, I need you to borrow me some money, man. All that money you got, man. I always knew you was the guy, man.
Hey, Caleb, yeah, I see you my Cash App, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the Cash App after this podcast, man. But I just thank God that we are able. One thing I will say this though, we can all agree on one thing to disagree. You get what I'm saying? But as long
Amen.
as we all share our opinions and our differences, that's what makes the conversation better, because we're not going to have the same answers or the same response for every question. So I definitely thank you guys for being open-minded and also being open and transparent with the responses, because I feel like maybe, Terrell, I need to start practicing that practice and look in the mirror, because me, I don't pray about it. I don't talk about it. I just know she don't like when I come aggressively, so then I got to come this way. Maybe I need to take a different approach, and maybe that might work out for me. But that's something that I may want to try, where I look at myself in the mirror and then talk to myself first in regards to, how do I see this? How would I do this? Why is it that this is like this, before I go and present it to my wife? You know what I'm saying? So I definitely thank you guys for coming on, sharing this. Maybe there needs to be a part 3. I think it should maybe be a part 3. If you guys are willing to come back on, I feel like maybe it should be a part 3, because it's still, I feel like it is a conversation and it is some stuff to dive down into, because Aaron, you said something that I think we all can agree to, that we hold on to a lot of things as men. We are told not to be able to take these burdens off of our shoulders. And I feel like that's a huge problem in a lot of our relationships, because we carry on a lot of responsibilities. Women, where they would just tell you how they feel because they're emotional. We're not told to be emotional, so we keep a lot of things bottled in, and it becomes a detriment to us and our health. Not just our physical presence, but also our personal health and our mental health. We hold on to too much. And I think that's another conversation that we need to have as men, that how do we begin to express it in a way where we're not looked at as being attacking or being weak or being anything like that. And I definitely want to thank you guys for coming on, because it's been a great conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I take a lot from these conversations.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much for guys coming on, man. Anybody got something to say?
No, you know what, Kojo, that's a good point if you want to do this again at some point in time.
Yeah.
But you talk about men holding it on. I have a different take. I'm the communicator. My wife is the one that don't say nothing. So my wife ain't the traditional wife of talking it. I'm the guy who's the talker and expressing emotion and feeling. So it's a totally different take when I got to go to her to figure out a way to get her to talk. So this is a real interesting conversation, because every woman ain't the same. Obviously, every man ain't the same, but there are different dynamics. And in the dynamic, I would be the traditional air quote woman in the relationship, because I don't have a problem expressing, and I don't have a problem diving into the details, where my wife is like a rock. Like,
but I would say that don't make you the traditional woman in a sense.
No,
I'm
giving.
according to society, yes.
Yes,
but what I'm saying is that, to me, is the forgotten part about us being men. You feel what I'm saying? Like, that is the part that, like Jojo was saying, that is shunned upon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was watching something about saying being emotionally intelligent. You know what I'm saying? I told somebody not too long ago, I'm like, man, you know, you are emotionally immature. You know what I'm saying? I remember I said that, you know, to the point where, when you're trying to grow somebody, you're trying to deal with those things, like I said, those are the hard discussions that need to be had. It's okay to say these type of things, again, not being mad, not being malicious, and those intents and things like that, but it's actually to say, I'm having these conversations with you so that we can get to a better place. You know what I'm saying? But I enjoyed everybody. I'm sorry we ain't really get around to Caleb. Caleb was a little quiet. You know what I'm saying? Sorry,
no, I think
my passion.
I think we should do the part 3.
Yeah.
I think we should do the part 3. And you know, those who are available to come on, please come on. If not, I understand. But if you are available to come on for a part 3, I think this is something that will benefit a lot, because I did an event called Men Are Divided Emotionally, and I think it's time for men to be able to be open and not looked on as weak when they express their emotion. And I think it will be a blessing if we can do a part 3 to have this conversation and dive down a little bit more, and you know, be a little bit more, you know, more transparent with our conversation, so that way we can help the next relationship. We can give that advice to Jay, or the next Jay that's about to get married, or the next Jay that is not even thinking about being married and wants to be a player and run these streets.
But I can tell y'all this. Listen, what y'all be saying about men holding the weight of everything, what I know as men, we can wear it well. All you need is a good woman that's made to support, because women are made to support. So therefore, the main thing is, for those men out there, we are built on the weight of the world and all its problems, because we're against it all. That true man. But You need to find yourself a good support system, which is that woman. Woman only there to support. Oh, baby, okay, I got you. I know I see you struggling, but I got you. But hey, that's just me.
Anything, Caleb?
Yeah, I say this, man. We definitely got to do a part 3, man, because like I definitely want to share my testimony because I've been through a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying, in my marriage, it'll be 10 years coming up. And I've been through it, you know what I'm saying, like where multiple miscarriages like almost destroyed our marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like in a sense where my wife didn't feel even comfortable even doing that because she didn't want to get pregnant because she didn't want to go through the trauma of having another miscarriage and going and y'all might laugh at me at this, but I'm talking about like going not months, not weeks, years of no intercourse. Like I'm just being real. So I feel I'm qualified to speak to that. I ain't talking about no 1 year, I ain't talking about 2 years, I'm talking about 3 years, like real stuff. And like and I can share the practical steps that I use. It may sound cliche, but it's the thing that held me and sustained me, man. Like real talk. You know, and I think also too, man, men, we got to get to the point where we start to share our traumas and our stories and whatever things to edify each other, as well as we need to also get therapy. You know, demystify that no, don't go to therapy, you know, be a man, suck it up, don't cry and everything. God gave us all these emotions to use. And it's a travesty that we don't want to cry when we're hurting, when crying is a way of purging your pain out of your system. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the thing that he's given us and allows us to feel. So I feel like, man, like we just got to be able to also go to counseling, talk about some things. Ultimately, man, also having a great support group because and having a great support group as well as like knowing your limits, man, because in my time of being uncovered in those times, I didn't feel safe going out because all it takes is one little, you know, you're at the bar, whatever, you know, you at somewhere, somebody whispering in your ear, like saying something that, you know, your spouse ain't giving you or whatever. And then you're like, oh, I'm in a situation. So it's things I had to do to safeguard myself. You know, some people may be like, oh, well, you know, you serving in your ministry, whatever the case may be, that might sound corny or whatever, and reading the word of God. But that was the thing that kept me through all the temptation. There was times where, and I used to be transparent, there was times where I was falling into pornography and so forth. And I was like, nah, what are you doing? Like, I'm married. Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? And I had to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? And to say, nah, like, I'm robbing my marriage because I'm dealing with a situation and I'm going to run to the easy thing, just say, oh, let me do pornography in a sense because, oh, it's not cheating. It is cheating in a sense, but it's somebody you don't know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's whack. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the same thing. It's still adultery, whatever the case may be. And I had to be delivered from that as well as repent from that. You know what I'm saying? So
yes, sir.
It's one of those things, man. Like it's real out here. Like it's real, and men, we got to talk about these situations because we are dying prematurely because we're not able to talk about our situations. And the way our body reacts is when you're dealing with stress, your body develops cortisol, which gets into your arteries. That's the bad fats and so forth. So literally, when somebody says stress kills you, it literally does that from a scientifically and from a molecular standpoint. So like, we got to start to have more stress relievers, whether it's, you know, podcasts like this, whether it's meetups, saying like from the podcast, to say, hey man, we got a men's fellowship. Let's get together. Let's, you know, talk about whatever, you know, let's heal each other, whatever the case may be, because those things are needed, man, because it ain't too many spaces to get in that. Like, I mean, barbershops are who they are, but barbershops are not a safe place where we really can really talk about the
have real conversation
that we deal with, you know. And my last thing I would say is, man, one thing I learned in my marriage is, and my father-in-law shared this with me, is that it's the small foxes that spoil the vine. A lot of times, you know, the things that happen catastrophically in our marriages, it was always the little foxes just nibbling away. And then you look up, you like,
Dad, this joint, these little small foxes turn to big foxes. Like they
Yes, sir.
the
Yes, sir.
vegetation. So it's one of the things, man. As soon as you start seeing a fox start to nibble, man, go ahead and deal with that fox, man. Like, don't wait, man, because when you wait, it is your silence is your agreement with the bad behavior. So that's all I got to say.
And Terrell, go ahead, RJ.
I just gotta say one thing because he said something that was very, very good, and that's something I had to change about myself. When he was talking about that porn situation, and I can tell y'all this: I had to take a picture, a couple pictures of my girl ass to get me off that porn site. I had to flick it up on her.
Hey, so look, we're gonna have to have that part 3, man. I'm gonna need to get y'all back here for that part 3 because
y'all just saying so much. I want to have a whole nother conversation about. So yeah,
we gotta have that part 3. We're gonna have to have that part 3. Terrell, real quick before we go.
Oh no, I'm look, this was good. No, this is really good. I think the one thing that we can all, like, we've all agreed upon is that obviously as a man, there's a lot on our shoulders, and that we're a contributor to what's going on in this whole conversation. And, and I'm just so big on that. And so I really appreciate it, Caleb. What you just said, man, you touched on a whole hot topic, the whole porn thing, man, because I understand, right? We understand. And so it most definitely is a conversation worth having. But this was good. I appreciate it. And next Sunday is Mother's Day. But I'm
gonna get a schedule together, and I'm gonna send it out to you guys. If you guys are available for that part 3, that's perfectly fine. If not, I understand. What you guys have given us is more than I can even ask for. I can't even repay you guys for the information and just being open and being transparent. I appreciate it, and also being vulnerable, man. I definitely appreciate you guys for doing that. So I appreciate you guys for coming on again. Thank you so much. I will be texting you guys individually after this, so I can thank you guys some more. After this behind the scenes as well.
Ooh.
All right, fellas. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, guys, it's been another great conversation of Final Notice Podcast. We stream live on Sundays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Final Notice Podcast on YouTube and Final Notice Podcast on Facebook as well. This was a part 2 of our part 1 of men's role in marriages, and we had our platform come on. Man, I listen. I think that we definitely have to have the part 3. Definitely have to have the part 3.
Bro, say we got to come and reason together, bro. So it's not about getting offended. It's not about getting in the feelings. We got to learn how to reason together, bro, and really like shame the devil. Again, the reason why I said this is because the world can have these type of conversations, you know what I'm saying? But us as men, as men of God and things like that, we're not allowed to have these conversations. You don't have these conversations. I can't remember any church I've ever been in that had conversations like that. You know what I'm saying? So I love these conversations. Talk about this for hours, bro.
All right, man. With that being said, man, we are way behind time. I definitely have to jump off, man. Follow us again on YouTube on Final Notice Podcast and also on Facebook. Tune in on Wednesday for our next conversation, man. You would not be disappointed, man. Again, thank you so much for watching us. We do not take you, our viewers, for granted. Thank you guys for staying on, our consistent viewers. Thank you, Rashida. I wanted to give you a personal shout out for always coming through for our flyers. I'll call her at any time and I say, hey, sis, I need a flyer. She come in. Thank you so much for the hard work that you're doing on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana, for also being a supportive producer and also a great wife. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing on behind the scenes as well. We definitely appreciate you guys for that. So on that notice, brother, I'll let you go and I'll catch up with you on whenever we get off.
All right, brother. I love you, man. Take it easy.
Bro. Take it easy, man.
All right. Hey, read them comments. JC was wilding, man.
That's why I stopped reading after a while. It was a little bit too much. I remember saying, I still love her, but you better provide me with another lover. I said, this baby right here is serious. No, for real. All right, man. I'm gonna let you roll out, man. You guys tune in on Wednesday, Final Notice Podcast, man. We out.
Have a good night.